Give us a few clean laps to get our fuel numbers.
the console space. We'll talk a little bit more about that, I'm sure. But so things are going really well. Uh, we're up to over 150 employees now, and so it's we added probably another 20 employees last year, all on the tech and creative side. So we're investing more into iRacing than ever. So that's why I feel like we're just getting started in some ways.
You brought up COVID, and before we get into the specifics about what the company's working on, you brought up COVID and the growth. And one of the biggest booms, I guess a silver lining blessing in disguise type of thing, was iRacing during COVID, because of you had Fox looking to fill time from the lost races, and they're airing iRacing events. You have the esports, the Coke iRacing series, like that takes off. All these things are kind of like this perfect storm, lightning in a bottle thing happened, and it doesn't seem, whereas like you mentioned, other companies have kind of fallen off, had to let people go. Layoffs are a major thing going through the industry right now. You guys have continued your growth. How has that been able to be achieved since that COVID boom, I guess, through now?
I Yeah, I guess I never thought of a single reason, but why we continue to grow after COVID. I guess it all comes down to the game, and that's what it always comes back to. That for me is trying to make the best game we can. And so I think we're a little different than most games, whereas they build a game and then that game just sort of sits there for. I mean, they might do some patches, but sort of sits there until the next one comes out 2 or 3 years later or 4 years later. But with us, I think the fact that we just keep updating every quarter and making the game better and better. I mean, maybe that's the reason why. And not only and we've been picking up our pace of development rather than slowing down. So the game just keeps getting better. So I don't know, maybe that's why. But yeah, it was lightning in a bottle. It's funny, we had just moved into a new office, and we had been outsourcing our broadcasts for the most part, and started to do them a little bit internally. But we decided to invest in a big studio, a broadcast studio, right before COVID hit. And we had already been talking to Fox about some other things. So really was lightning in a bottle, because if we hadn't invested in that broadcast studio, we would have never been able to, send those live feeds over to Fox. And so it was a perfect storm that worked out well for us.
You talked about the quarterly updates and the constant, like the investment in the tech side of things, the development side of things, and it feels that for a game that is now 16 years old, granted it's older than that because of development, but that's been publicly released for 16 years almost. It feels like it's, and correct me if this assumption's wrong, that you guys are finally hitting your stride, not just from the racing aspect, which obviously if racing's not fun, people aren't going to stick around. But now it's really starting to push towards that. I don't want to say a next-gen type of sim racing, but I'm going to, for lack of a term, where you see the cars are starting to look better. The tracks are being scanned, and they're starting to look better than ever. Every aspect seems to be coming together. Would that be a fair assumption to make at this point, compared to maybe years past, where maybe the gameplay was great, but it didn't look as great, maybe as what you guys would think it should, or what fans should?
Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah, I think that was our strength, was our centralized service, number one, where that you could always find a race, and our I rating and safety rating and matchmaking, but also the physics and the laser scan tracks. But I think we critically looked at ourselves and said, you know what, we're deficient in a lot of areas, and graphics is one of them, and and um, and we need to modernize, and we still have a long ways to go, honestly, but that's been a big area of focus. Um, in everything, load times, frame rates, infrastructure, you know, making a big investment. So we're still going to be, doing this 15 years from now. And so that's really what the last, ever since COVID, we've been investing heavily in a lot of tech people, and we still have a long ways to go. For example, you mentioned graphics. We've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. So I think just critically looking at ourselves and how can we get better has been a big thing we've kind of undertaken in the last several years. So anyway.
So
But that was a fair assessment for sure.
So 2024, I mean, we're in the middle of season 1 when we're recording this when this is gonna air. New tracks as always, new cars. But one of the things that people seem to have been excited about, myself personally, was the updates to the damage model. Because if there's one area on the track that people seem to question and really our opinion, it's tire wear and the damage model. How making the decision of how to improve that and make it a more realistic, while still, I guess I don't want to say forgiving, but a forgiving kind of system. Like, what is that process like when you're coming up with, and the team is coming up with how you want to improve the on the track action with it?
Well, and I don't know if we did that was part of looking at ourselves critically. I mean, we do have a new damage model, but that I'm not sure that's what you're talking about. But we always default back to realism, and sometimes that isn't always fun and popular right away, because people want to bang and stuff like that, and you're not getting whiplash or having somebody scream at you that you just ruined a $100,000 race car. So people do like to bang and stuff like that, but we try to stick to realism, and your car can get banged up, and you can end up in the pit waiting for that car to get fixed, and it can get frustrating. But that's what we do. We stick to realism. But that said, we do really listen to the customers, and we try to make it as fun as possible, and there's always better ways to do things. So when you first release something, you might you still have a lot to learn, because when there's a big difference between 10 people in QA doing something and 100,000 people doing something. And so usually things evolve and get better and better over time, like our damage model, and we do adjust the damage. Like, oh, we had that too stiff. We got to loosen that up. And there's hundreds of cars too, so
Yeah.
you might have 10 cars right, but then 10 cars you didn't have right. So over time, those are the things that we're constantly updating to make things more fun and more realistic.
What is the reaction of players been to the updated damage model?
I think they love it. I mean, visually, it's so much better. I mean, it's before it wasn't realistic. I mean, and now it just makes for more more engaging, more dynamic, a more fun race to see the realistic parts falling off the cars and things like that. So that's the goal, is to make this as real as possible, and the more you make it real, the funner it is. We have another huge feature we've been working on for several years coming up in March. We have a quarterly build every season. People that don't know, a quarterly update where we release new features and content. So a big feature is coming this March, a whole new rain and weather system. So that's something we're really excited about. Nothing's ever been done like this in a racing game, the way we've done rain. Kind of the iRacing way, over-engineered, but for rain, that's something good. It's not just the look; it's all the physics of the rain and the dynamic part of the racing that's going to add. Where you're chasing the slick and the dry, to try to find the most grip, all that stuff, and the way it puddles up and dries and bounces off your windshield, all that stuff. It took us years to do, so we're pretty excited about that. It's all tied to actual weather services. So if you're at a track, you can set it to realistic weather, and it's going to look for that part of the world, what's happening, the weather service in that part of the world, and so it deliver that, and you'll kind of get a forecast and have to decide. It might not rain or it might rain, but you can also adjust it and make it rain, do anything you want. You also have full control of it if you're hosted. But we're excited about that feature coming out in March.
With the weather feature, that actually is a question. You brought up the realistic, and endurance racing is growing in popularity. Will it be one of those where if there's an endurance race going on, the weather will change throughout the race?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's what it's more of a road racing feature, especially endurance racing. So, if we just had our 24 hours of Daytona, so I would expect that you'll be worried about rain. It might not rain, or it might
Well
rain,
done. Get going.
or it might just get cloudy and moist. But you'll be thinking about that as a team in that race, which was by the way probably I think it was the biggest sim race of all time we just had, with almost 20,000 people racing in that race, and including a lot of famous real world racers. Max Verstappen, the F1 driver, was in the top split, and his team won that. So
What a
it's pretty,
shock!
yeah.
Couldn't have seen. Never would have saw that coming.
Team Red Line, yeah. So it's yeah, exactly. He's halfway decent. So yeah, so that always makes us feel good, because we're not paying anybody like that or recruiting him. He's just doing that, his free time. So because he thinks it's fun, so that makes us feel good.
What goes into deciding these features, like when you want to implement them? When is the right time to not only start building them, but you don't want to sit on something that you've been building forever? It's always one of those things of like, all right, well, let's wait till it's perfect. Well, you don't want to. You want to get it out there and see the feedback from the masses. What goes into the decisions on when you want to release these features or hold them back or things like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. We almost released it in December, but we could have. But we want, and it's never going to be perfect, and we'll probably keep working on Rain for another year after we release it. But it's it's ready when we think this is really high quality, and people are going to say, "Wow, this is good." I mean, so it's kind of just that, when people are going to say, you don't want to spend 3 years working on something, and then for an extra 5%, it's a difference between saying this sucks or this is really cool. So, but that's a fine line. So, I mean, it's time for us to release it. It's really good. But that is a good question, and something every game company struggles with, and sometimes make mistakes, and we all make mistakes, and sometimes you wait too long, and sometimes you more often than not, you release things too early, which a lot of game companies do.
Yeah, I mean, even just in general software, I've been at companies where we had a product, we knew we were going to be the first on the market, but we held it too long. And by the time we put it out, someone already had it out there, and they had taken the market. And it cost. It can, like, there's that fine line and decision of like, if we put it out now, it's going to be a broken mess. But if we wait too long, then we're going to be out of business because we missed our chance.
Right. Or people are just so frustrated that it's taken so long that they start to give up on you. So that there is a fine line, but you never want to put anything out that's buggy and doesn't work either. So that's not good either. That just after all your hard work, it just backfires on you. So go ahead.
Let's pivot away from the game specifically and move over to the esports. The eNASCAR Coca-Cola Series is starting up again, 14th season. It has continued to grow year over year. What do you think, if you could pinpoint maybe one or two things as to why it continues to have the success it has, what would you say that is?
Well, I think we have the best NASCAR. I think we have the best game, number one, and certainly we have the best NASCAR game. So that helps. I think NASCAR is a great partner in all the teams. We do it a little differently, where than most esports, where we sort of pick the team. We actually do pick the teams, and also it is the best 40 drivers in the world. So it's not what team sort of put the drivers in the series. It is you have to qualify all the way through. So everyone knows that these are the best 40 drivers, and they deserve to be there. And I think that helps a lot. And having NASCAR as a partner, and the prize money this year is going to be over $500,000, so that doesn't hurt. So I think, and we put a lot into it. We put a lot into the broadcast. We put a lot into everything around it. And NASCAR does as well. So I think and people like Dale Jr. and people that are involved in the series really help promote it. So it's something really special, and we're really proud of it.
Overall, with the eNASCAR, I mean, you talked about Dale Jr., you talked about NASCAR being a partner. How much have they helped? Because it was a thing that had that solid growth, and then again, I can't help but go back to 2020 and 2021, where people needed things to enjoy. And do you feel that it was just a case of people found this because it was the thing they could find, a live sport that they could watch, and they just stuck around? Or do you feel like there was something else that maybe clicked, that you guys were able to hit this series to the point where, yeah, it's over 500,000 prize pool, and these racers they have the opportunity to make some real money, not just like $1,000 here and there, but some real money doing this.
Yeah, I think it's just a combination of the things you talked about. I think there's certainly a lot of people found us with the Fox broadcast, and that's just not NASCAR. I mean, there were Fox broadcasts going down in Australia with our V8 supercars, and actually our European market. I mean, more people do road racing on iRacing than they do NASCAR, so it's not just NASCAR, but people found it, and I think the game is so deep and realistic that I think people just stick around because it becomes a hobby. It's people that want to race. I mean, that's what iRacing is for. That aren't going to get a chance to do it in the real world because they don't have the time or the money, or they race in the real world, and this just fills in the gaps. So it's something that is addicting to people that love racing, and I think that that's the secret.
Before we move on to the two, I guess, elephants in the room when it comes to iRacing's future, back with the game specifically, there's always that the people that racing the AI and doing AI lobbies has been something that has grown over the years with a lot of people who want to practice but don't want to deal sometimes with the people from random lobbies, because you run into all types of drivers, all of them. And I get as frustrated as anybody else, depending on the drivers in the lobby I'm in, where lap one in a race, and you have people taking out half the field. Anyway, I don't want to get on a soapbox on it.
No,
but
we've all been there. We've all been there.
But the idea of racing AI, it continues to grow. Is that continued, or going to continue to be part of the plan with development, especially as the development team grows, of putting more effort into and resources into allowing drivers to do full races with themselves, like in AI, to really get that practice without having to worry about random lobbies?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. That's actually a huge focus. iRacing right now doesn't have a career mode, unlike most games, because it's always been about the multiplayer and the hosted leagues and the private leagues and stuff like that. But we realize that there definitely is, and our AI is really good. We've invested a lot into the AI itself. But what we haven't really done is built a lot of good activities around we have the awesome cars, the awesome tracks, hundreds of them, really good AI, but we haven't built anything around it. So that's sort of the next step in our evolution is, building a career mode, being in a private session, just being able to click a button that says AI. So rather than practicing the track by yourself, just the AI drops right in easily for you, and you can adjust the skill level, all sorts of things like that on board. It can be intimidating just jumping in a race if you've never done it before, with real people. So, just doing a better job using AI to get people ready for races and comfortable on track, learning racecraft, driving school. But right now we're in the middle of building a whole career mode, so in full development for that. Which is exciting for us.
Is there any timeline on when you'd like to have that out?
I'd like to have it out next year. I think it's going to come in steps. There's some very early steps of it that'll come out this year. I wouldn't call it career mode though. I'd just call it, it's just going to be a better. Right now our AI doesn't. It's kind of hard to find where we're going to have a page, a dedicated homepage dedicated to AI with more options and making things easier, which will, and then it's going to, and then it'll be a quick button in private racing. We just, like I said, go out and race on the AI, and that's going to lead to right now a traditional AI sort of career mode, and then from there evolve to other plans we have to take even further than sort of a traditional career mode. But I would hope that what I'm calling a traditional career mode is going to release sometime next year in 2025, but I'm not promising that for sure. You know how software development is.
Yeah, 100%. Something could break tomorrow. hopefully it doesn't happen, but we've all
Yeah.
been there. We have all, anybody who's worked in the industry, in any type of software, knows
Right.
how quickly something can go wrong. Or there are times where it's like, wow, that didn't take nearly as long as we thought. And
Right.
to the shop,
Yeah.
cross that off.
Yeah, we thought we were going to release Rain last year, so early last year, so it's a year later than we thought, for example. But we have a dedicated team on career mode. I mean, just to let you know how important it is to us. Like a lot of game companies, but for us, it's never been a focus, and now it is.
So we're going to talk now about the two big major licensing deals that iRacing came into. We'll start with NASCAR, because that one, I don't want to say it was expected by many in the community, but it was expected by many in the community, including myself for the longest time. Anybody who's followed the situation in NASCAR gaming has seen what has unfolded over there. It doesn't take much to see how things went down. What was that process like, getting the NASCAR license from Motorsport Games? When was the decision made to start these talks? How long ago did they happen? Can you kind of walk through like the process of just acquiring?
Yeah, to the best that I can. I mean, I was in the middle of it, and there's confidentiality clauses and things like that. But
I mean, you can't break legal agreements.
yeah, exactly. Well, I guess you can. But we actually have believe it or not, a good relationship with Motorsport Games, and talked to them. We talked to them for years, off and on, about different things. We weren't always thrilled when they went out, and for example, locked up an exclusive, like they did with NASCAR. But that said, we had a good relationship with them, and talked. I talked to the. I went through a couple CEOs, and I talked to them over the years, and we have an exclusive for what we do with NASCAR, and we never had a huge interest in the consoles. We knew we wanted to do it someday, but we wanted to get to a certain point with iRacing, and then expand into that market. And so once we acquired MGI, that was the reason why we did that, is to expand into the console market and use a lot of the iRacing tech to take that studio hopefully to another level. That was the plan. So that happened, and we started with the World of Outlaws game that launched really successfully. And then, we knew that we really wanted that NASCAR license. And so, we just kept talking to NASCAR and to Motorsport Games, and it eventually worked itself out. And long story short, but it was a complicated deal, between Motorsports Game, NASCAR, the NASCAR teams, because there was a deal in place, so we had to do a new three-way deal and keep everybody happy. And NASCAR was honestly excited for us to get. It's no secret that was struggling. It was struggling. The franchise was struggling on the Motorsport Game, so they were excited for it to have a new home. And we're, so anyway.
It's unfortunate because no one, and you're obviously a lover of racing, wouldn't be doing what you do for a living if you didn't.
Absolutely.
Myself, the fans, like, it's not like it's one of those things of they just want a fun game. They want a game they can play that's structured, and to see that jump, and I'm speaking more on like my feelings on it and the sentiment I see is that it feels like now moving to iRacing and moving under that umbrella, it just seems like it was a match made in heaven that took too long. Like, it's like these high school sweethearts that left each other when they graduated, and then 10 years later they're at a 10-year reunion and rekindle, and they realize, yeah, no, this is we need to be together. And
Right.
What would you classify, like, with your opinion, the matching of being able to do something like this for NASCAR?
No, it's what we dreamed of doing. So I think it is. I think it's a match made in heaven. So I couldn't have said it better myself. It's the license we wanted. It's the dream we had for the console platform. It was our number one choice. It was for a lot of reasons to take control of that NASCAR franchise. And we want to we want the players to feel like, it's the best driving movie that's ever been made, and you're the star, and that's what we're trying to do with this game, and we working hard to live up to expectations, but to build the best NASCAR game that's ever been made. So that's the goal, and that's what we're trying to do, and we're going to launch it next year. So, but credit to Motorsport Games because they. They were also trying to do the right thing. They also knew that we were in the best position. I mean, we already have all the assets. We already had all the cars and tracks, and know how to do this. We've been building racing games all for decades as a company. So credit to them that they were trying to do the right thing for the marketplace as well in some way to make sure that it ended up with us, and so it worked out well. It took too long, but you can look at it this way, that our tech is better, our assets are going to be better.
Yeah.
It gave us more. We're in a better position now that the game itself should be better. If we got it 3 years ago, it wouldn't have been as good.
Is this a game? Is the NASCAR, the console game, is that going to be a game developed by the iRacing development team, or is Monster Games gonna handle it, or how? I don't know if you can say how the development is going
Yeah,
to be working on it.
the Monster Game Group, they built a lot of NASCAR games. They're taking the
Yeah.
lead on it, but we've beefed up that group significantly. So when we acquired them, there were 20 employees. Now there are 35 employees, and then they're using a ton of the iRacing tech. So and a lot of our staff. So like we have engineers on loan over to them. So it's a combination effort, but they're the one. iRacing's never built a console game. MGI has. I mean, but we look at ourselves as one company,
Yeah.
and so it's now kind of blended together that it's the console studio. It's not MGI. We put all hands on deck to try to make the best game we can. But they're using our car models, our track models, a lot of our tech. They've done a lot of integration in the back end. So when we update a track, we're trying to we're bringing all of our NASCAR tracks up to the latest spec, get them all current, and they have developed a system where they can just import our tracks in. Things like that. They've been working behind the scenes, and they're working on a new graphics engine. So the graphics engine is going to be Unreal, whereas their prior games had been on Unity.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a whole new graphics engine too as well. So they're keeping busy.
With the console game, so iRacing has always been the destination for sim racers. Consoles are that different animal where you have to, those casual fans that don't have that high-powered PC rig with the wheel that can do the sim racing and iRacing, they just want to sit down and play a racing game. You have to, there's that catering, I guess, or appeasing both the sim and the casual audience with the game. What is the kind of the mindset with utilizing the NASCAR license, creating the console game to make sure you appease both audiences?
We're trying to dance that fine line where it's realism, but we, with the console game, I mean, number one, you have to certain specifications with Sony and Microsoft that you have to meet, but we're definitely going at that market. But quality racing, MGI wanted that anyway, but we always want realism. We want a real focus on the driving as iRacing as a brand. So there's going to be a lot of focus on good driving. Career mode is really important with a console game, and so there's obviously a lot of effort in that. I don't want to give away too much about the game. We've got news coming, but the way the game works is some fun new stuff in it that I don't want to talk about quite yet, but more news coming. But for us, the focus is on really good driving, but yet aimed at that market a little more than an iRacing product would be, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, of course.
It's a little different market.
I know you don't want to get too much, but this was a question I had 100 times out of 100, and from readers for some reason. Okay, you can't answer it, but they would be mad if I didn't at least ask it. With the NASCAR game, the console game, trading paints is one of the biggest things ever for iRacing.
Right.
Custom design is the goal or the hope that a console game will allow for these custom type designs as thorough. Maybe it can't be as thorough because it is it's a different style of game. It's got to meet different specs, but custom designs for their cars.
I don't want to shatter their hopes and dreams, but I don't think things are going to be that free and open. But I mean, we're going to really try to do the best job we can. But I don't think that it won't work like iRacing.
Yeah, and for me, like I see it, and I think, like, I know you said you don't want to shatter hopes and dreams, but as far as like from a understanding, it's just, again, the different specs and trying to reach to a console. It's not like, so back in the day, EA Sports for the college football games allowed you to create your team design online, your team, and then import it into the game. Even then, it wasn't the same type of freedom you have to design for iRacing. It still had to meet those specs. You still had a limited number of designs. Sure, you could throw your own logo in, but you had a limited number of designs for the jerseys, for the stadium, for the field, all that. So it's one of those, PC gaming just opens up to a way bigger customization. That's why mods are a major thing. So I think
that's exactly right. So I mean, and you have the teams, the real world teams that are going to be part of the NASCAR game, obviously, and the drivers. So that's also a focus of the paint kits, but we definitely want to allow freedom as well. So it won't work like the PC world works.
So moving on to the other major licensing deal, IndyCar, that one is more of it feels like a more complicated story because of the way it had ended with iRacing no longer running the Indy 500 in game, and then Motorsport Games getting exclusivity to all of that. And then ultimately things happen there. They lose that exclusivity deal. You guys get a new deal with IndyCar to bring in the virtual Indy 500 and that licensing. How did that go about getting a new deal struck with them?
Yeah, a little bit different but similar, I guess. That we've always had an IndyCar license non-exclusively, and we always it was always a big brand for us, and we had super die-hard IndyCar fans in iRacing. And then because of Motorsport Games, again back to that exclusive thing I talked about earlier, they got an exclusive that started in 2023, which meant, and that's when our license ended. So we weren't able to get a renewal because even though IndyCar and Perfect World wanted to give us a renewal, they weren't able to because of the exclusive, and they were getting paid a lot of money. Motorsport Games paying a lot of money for that exclusive, so and it was
dumb to turn down the money.
So I don't know, that wasn't the only reason they did it, but anyway, they did a deal, and it didn't work out, and so again, I was talking to Motorsport Games about IndyCar, and I was talking to IndyCar. I kept in touch with IndyCar. It was a great partner as well through the whole time, and they said, just be patient. We were going to try to work something out anyway, probably, even with the relationships, even if Motorsport Games did come out with an IndyCar game, to try to get our license back, even if they did come out with an IndyCar game. So that's what I was talking about. I wasn't hoping for them to fail and not come out with a game, but what happened is they just had too many licenses and not enough people to build all these games, so they ended up not being able to build an IndyCar game and defaulting on the license, more or less, and it opened the door for us to, jumped on that right away with IndyCar, and credit to them, they were excited to have us back in the fold and get that deal done and real quickly once that news broke.
And fans, like, just from social media in general, seem to be super thrilled about it, but there always that question of, we've had this before, is there going to be an expansion to what that relationship brings? So that's my next question. Is there going to be an expansion to what IndyCar's licensing with iRacing brings? We know it has the return of the iRacing Indy 500, the IndyCar branding, leagues, license extension for Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but is there going to be anything more on top of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. We have a 4 official series going right now. We have the full-length series of, um, fixed setup series, an open setup series, and an oval-only series. But we're talking to them about more things right now. So we hope to announce something soon. But so that we are going to take it to the next level. Like, there's real excitement between the two companies partnering together that I've never, even in the old days, we never had. So they're really going to get behind this, and we're excited to have them do that. And we're going to try to work with them to bring other forms of IndyCar to the gaming market. So I'm sure people are interested if we're going to build an IndyCar console game, and I don't think that's any short-term plan, but I think the door's open. That's a possibility someday.
Yeah,
But
I think where
that's
fans...
not what the news is going to be, hopefully. But I know that's what people want, and we, in a perfect world, we could do that too. But we don't want to make the same mistake Motorsport Games did and bite off more than we can chew. So
yeah, and that's the concern for every company. That goes back to the whole. You
right.
can even tie that in with the putting something out too soon, waiting too long. If you bite off too much, then you wear your product thin.
Yeah. We have some more we have a World of Outlaws